So, and you feel in some moment became a journalist again? I mean, I think, for example, in Berlin in 1989, you
Yes.
were there.
That's
when
true.
The wall falls.
Well, I was in Berlin in 1989 to 90 for a full year. I began writing another monograph about 18th century France, and then the ground began to shake under my feet, under everyone's feet. We didn't know what was happening. In retrospect, we know it was the end of the Cold War. It was a great turning point in history, but clearly something was happening. So I dropped my monograph, and I spent the rest of the year going to demonstrations, interviewing people, trying to do a kind of street-level anthropology and journalism about the events as they happened.
Okay, but you are now also a very important historian of the books. And how you see this moment of the books in connection, in the context of internet area?
Well, the history of books has now really developed into an important discipline. It's sort of like history of science or history of art. You know, it's growing and growing with its own reviews, its own conferences and meetings and degrees and lectures. And there is a kind of basic agreement about the questions to be asked, some of the methods to be used. So there's this sense of creating something exciting academically, but around us, meanwhile, the internet suddenly appeared.
Yes.
I say suddenly because it's true the internet was more or less invented in 1974, but it's only after the World Wide Web became effective in 1991 that we realized that the book now was something that was, I don't say obsolete, but something that existed in a different context. So I've become fascinated by the internet as a new means of communication and about the way the printed word and the electronic word intermix and influence one another.
Okay. So, and do you see some parallels in between, for example, blogging today and then, and how was making journalism and to be a reporter in the 18th century, for example? There are some parallels.
There really are parallels, and I don't think I'm forcing it to say this. In fact, I've done recently a study of blogging today and a kind of scandalous journalism in the 18th century, in London and in Paris. And I can show you excerpts from newspapers, pamphlets, books that are almost exactly like scandalous blogs today. Not all blogs, but in the US we have this special genre of the scandalous blog.
Yes,
and they're scandalous, you know. They're funny. And usually the theme is some important public person has got a very dubious private life. So the private lives of public persons turns out to be a major theme in the 18th century. And it runs right from Louis XIV to Napoleon. Every important public figure has a private life. And the private life is, of course, totally illegal. It's all in the underground, and it's sold beautifully. People love to read the private life of Louis XV, a great bestseller. So that's happening today. It happened then. Then it happened largely, almost entirely, through manuscript, underground newsletters, and the printed book. Today it happens with blogs.
Yes. And one last question. In this era of overwhelming information, so we still need editors.
I think we do. Editing is it's not just a skill, it's a vocation. And we need it more than ever because there's so much information. So who is going to do a kind of triage? Who's going to select what's important and relevant? The editor. But there are different kinds of editors. So you have, for example, a traditional editor in a publishing house who helps shape a book and then does line editing. But you've got editors who work in the blogosphere as well. Wikipedia has editors. Everyone thinks, oh, Wikipedia, the public just throws anything in. It's not true. At first, there was a great deal of what's called the wisdom of crowds. But Wikipedia, fortunately, hired some serious editors, and they control the information that goes in. So it's not just anything, it's serious information.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.